But I actually think kind of the interesting story today, and this is something we've talked about quite a bit, is this Pac-12 equity share that they are trying to sell to venture capitalists, to whoever wants to put $750 million on the table to buy 15% of the Pac-12. Is somebody willing to do that? Remember, the number started out at $500 million for 10%, and then they bumped it up, but also gets a bigger share of the equity. And it sounds like, according to who is it? I mean, I know we've got the tweet from Awful announcing here. It actually sounds like the Pac-12 is getting this offer. I mean, in fact, a lot of people are offering him this money.
Well, okay, now let's make sure we understand that this is a call that the Pac-12 does not have to make. The idea that Larry Scott had 5+ years ago was to own the rights to their own network so that when live sports become the premium aspect of television, which is already the case and is going to continue to be that case over the next 5 years, Larry Scott and the Pac-12 said, we want to own the entire network, which means we're going to cover the cost, but also we get all the profits.
Right.
Now, the issue came up when John Wilner and some folks, I believe the Oregonian as well, they did some digging and realized the Pac-12 is looking to sell 10% of their network for $500 million. Well, do the math. Does that mean you think the network is worth $5 billion? And everybody said, no way it's worth $5 billion.
Right.
And since then, Larry Scott and the Pac-12, they haven't had to deny it. They haven't had to address it. It's something that they're looking for as a cash infusion. If you want to buy 10% now, because we could use the extra $500 million to cover some costs, essentially until 2024 when the new deal is up. And we've always said if the Pac-12 gets the deal they want in 2024, well, then the narrative is going to go away immediately about the Big Ten or the SEC having more money.
Right. And if you're just just a percentage, 100% of it. You know, right now, the SEC, the Big 12, the Big Ten, the ACC, they don't own 100% of their own broadcasts. ESPN or Fox Sports or whoever, NBC, owns some of the rights to broadcast those games. And it's actually a huge percentage. It's like 40%, 50%. They own a huge percentage of that because it's really hard to create a TV station.
Hire people. You got to have trucks, cameras.
Have a production company. Know how to get people to do it.
Big screens.
It's all a big deal, and it's hard to do. And that's why finding somebody who already has the infrastructure, like a Fox Sports, like an ESPN, like an NBC or a CBS, whoever, it's smart to team with them. And they say, well, we'll take 40%. You get 60% because it's your brand, but we'll take 40% and we'll split that up. And the Pac-12 said, well, no, let's cut out the middleman. We're just going to do 100%.
But they were the first to do this.
And nobody else, still nobody else does it.
And only to do this. And so it was very clear when Larry Scott was talking about streaming sports 5 years ago. I didn't know what streaming was.
Right.
Now it's become the norm. So it has always been the point that Larry Scott was he was potentially just ahead of his time because the ideas he had about making money, well, they didn't come true the first 5 years of the TV deal. Now in the last 5. If they come true, then there's going to be a lot of pressure that's taken off Larry Scott. But you're not even talking about a Pac-12 network that's done this yet. This is based out of reports that the Pac-12 has received offers, in fact, for $750 million, and that several companies may, in fact, be interested in that 15% share. Newco is the company who valued the Pac-12 overall, but the report is then that they have several offers, and that might mean that the Pac-12 doesn't even take them. They wanted to make sure they could get the offers to prove that their business model was correct, and if multiple outlets are willing to offer $750 million for a 15% stake, well, that tells you maybe the Pac-12 network is worth $5 billion.
Yeah, the Sports Business Journal said the Pac-12 is already has multiple bids of at least $750 million in hand from companies looking to become equity investors in the conference. Over the next few months, it will work with a consultant Rain Group to narrow the field down to a potential partner. Now, again, the Pac-12 isn't going to force a deal through just because they have the offer. There is no commitment to selling this 15% equity just because they have the offers. Now,
I don't think they want to sell it, and I think this is the best sign for the Pac-12 that their network may in fact be worth that, because it doesn't sound like they're out of money. It sounds like they could use some extra cash flow, and it sounds like they could use some positive PR.
Now, it's a lot of money. $750 million divided by 12 teams is $62 million each. Okay, well, right now the Big 12 numbers came out from what they made this past year, and it was about $38 million. The Pac-12 made about $31 million. So That's a $7 million difference. Well, okay, if we're looking at that number now of $62 million per school, you split that up over the next 6 years to get yourself to the next negotiation date. All of a sudden, you go from making $31 million a year to $41 million a year is what each school is getting. Hey, all of a sudden, your payout is competing with the SEC. Your payout's competing with the Big Ten and the ACC, and more than what the Big 12 has brought in.
Don't forget, though, that the Pac-12 never promised $50 million. They promised between $27 and $35 million. And this was back when that was cutting edge. That was the highest payout per year, per school, just from the network itself. So the Big Ten, you're allowed to make more money. If you're Michigan and you want to sell your soda pops for $25 a piece and make $10 million off soda pop, that's your right too. But Michigan and all these Big Ten schools, they make 40 plus, close to $50 million per school, and so does the SEC just from their TV deal. So it doesn't mean that Washington State, that only gets $30 million from the Pac-12, they couldn't go out and make another $30 million. They could. Now, they haven't for a number of reasons. But I do not like the idea of these Pac-12 schools feeling like they are wanting and, we need 10 more million. Every school could use 10 more million.
Right.
But again, the Pac-12, and I mean 10 more per year for the next, 5 years until the new TV negotiation is up. But I think if this report is true, it may even allow the Pac-12 to not sell this off and continue to double down. And in 2024, they will say, look how valuable we are now. And then the payouts will be exponentially more than even the Big Ten or the SEC.
Have you ever done this? You post something on like a classified ads. You post it at KSL or whatever, where everyone likes to sell their stuff, Craigslist. Did you ever sell anything that way? So sometimes you sell something that way.
I recently did.
And you won't get a single call, or it takes 3 or 4 days to get a call, and you say, okay, maybe I overpriced it a little bit. But there's also the opposite phenomenon where you post it and you get 10 texts in the first 25 minutes, and you realize, ooh, I did not post this for enough money.
I probably should have doubled that.
Okay, so the Pac-12 could be going through this situation now where if they have 10 bids on the table for $750 million for 15%, maybe they're thinking, maybe we didn't value ourselves high enough, or maybe we shouldn't sell this, because if all these people who are money people, their entire job is to make their money, make more money, and they want to be a part of you, maybe you should either hold on to that 10% or 15% or raise the price there. And I get why these teams want to do, or why these venture capitalists or these investment companies want to do it. It's smart because you give them $750 million now, and in 6 years, they do all the renegotiating, and we know for sure it's going up. It's not like the Pac-12 is going to get less money 6 years from now. So they're going to turn their $750 million investment today into
$1 billion.
$1 billion, and all they have to do is wait 6 years, and they're going to make $250 million off it?